My name is Alan and I'm a sword instructor. I've done kenjutsu, saber. My specialty, however, are historical European martial arts, and my main weapon is the longsword. I fight, I make swords, and I do choreography.
Andrzej, wchodzisz? Malgan, wchodzisz?
Welcome to the Swords Path channel. Welcome! In this episode, on my viewers' request, I'm going to be reacting to the iconic fight between the Clegane brothers, Sandor and Gregor, from the last episode of Game of Thrones. The internet has spoiled the fight for me already, but I've saved actually watching it for now, so that you can get an authentic, a spontaneous reaction from me. So before we even begin, a small disclaimer here. I'm going to be talking about two aspects of the fight: cinematographic, which is the dramaturgy, the aesthetics, the dynamics, whether it works in the context of the story and how it portrays characters, how it serves towards portraying characters, and the realism aspect of the fight, so which moves would work in a real fight and how it could be changed to be more realistic. Do keep in mind, however, that the realistic part is by no means a criticism. A choreography does not need to be realistic to work in a cinematic context. Let me repeat that. A choreography does not need to be realistic to work in a movie. All right? And now let's move on to the actual fight. Here it is. Let's go. Oh, that's some nice VFX. Oh, this is a nice shot. Although I think the lighting is a little bit off. It was clearly, of course, it was clearly shot in a studio, in an artificially built set, so there's no sunlight, and I think the lack of those parallel beams of light coming from the sky is what sets the lighting off. But it doesn't matter. It's a minor detail. Let's go on. I love that Sandor actually greets the queen with your grace, with respect. He's clearly not come here for her. He makes it clear that he's come for the mountain. Okay, let's see what happens now. Okay, let's see what happens now with the Knights of the Kingsguard rushing in. All right, so this wasn't very good. Let me trace back a little. I think there were like 8 cuts over 3 seconds of a fight. Okay, they're rushing in. Yeah. All right, so choreography-wise, this was not so great. And I don't think that's the actor's fault. I think that's the coordinator's fault. Or perhaps the coordinators didn't have enough time to train the actor properly. They had to cut the choreography 8 times. 8 jump cuts just for 3 seconds of fight. So this is not very good work cinematography-wise. All right, so this wasn't a very good job choreography-wise and performance-wise. 8 jump cuts over literally 3 seconds of a fight, which usually signifies that the actor or the stuntman in question was not capable of performing at the desired level of quality, and the editor had to stitch it together from shorter cuts just to make it work. I do realize that this is just an introduction into the fight. It's just it's not the main course. It's just a side, and the king's guards, who are supposed to be some of the best swordsmen in the kingdom, apparently they're just trash mobs in this fight, and they're dispatched with a single strike, each of them. I do realize that, but my main gripe is this choreography did nothing to show the brutality, to emphasize the brutality of the Hound. It's just a very generic Hollywood fight with swords clashing against one another. It's not well choreographed. It says nothing about the character. It serves nothing narratively, except for maybe placing the Hound just below Serbalistan on the ranking here. Okay, so the realism aspect now. Let me trace back a tiny bit. Right here. Okay, so obviously it's not very realistic to kill men in armor with just slashing. I mean, swords are not very good at piercing through plate and mail. So the only realistic part is, I think, here where he puts the sword into a gap between the armor, into an already helpless soldier. I mean, he's clutching his I think his stomach for whatever. No, he's clutching his sword. How did he get into that position? How did he fall? Why did he fall? It's all unresolved in this choreography. It's super unrealistic, and it's not a very well done choreography. But okay, let's proceed. So for added realism, for added brutality, what I'd do is I'd showcase some actual historical moves employed against armor. So like the murder stroke with the pommel and the crossguard. This could be done brutally and overemphasized. For example, the crossguard piercing the helmet and bashing the guy's brains in. That would be properly brutal. There could be all sorts of hand-to-hand combat, like locks and throws, which would emphasize the Hound's towering strength and his brutality, the fact that he's a brute, basically. And barring that, the sword could be used in a more piercing fashion, in a half-swording manner, to better, more precisely put it into the gaps of the armor. So that's what realistically would be done against armor. I don't expect a Hollywood production to have any sort of realism in it, but I think in this case that realism would really add to the grittiness of the scene and the aesthetic. It would emphasize the narrative, and the narrative is what this is about, right? Okay, let's proceed. Hello, big brother. Right, so he doesn't speak anymore, which really adds to the menace. Oh, Kyburn. Well, that's a pity. I pretty much like that character. Cersei exchanging glances. Okay. She's making sure. Okay, that's a really nice build-up. Although I don't know how they're going to choreograph a proper fight on these stairs. Okay, so let's stop here. I mean, the cinematography itself, it's pretty great. The way the shots are framed, the lighting, the overall mood of the scene, it's done really well. But what the character does, it makes no sense in the context of the character. I mean, the Aunt, he hates his brother. He wants to kill him. He wants to murder him. It's the whole point of his arc. And we know he's a seasoned warrior. He's one of the greatest warriors in Westeros, even though he's underrated. Okay, let's see this again. A bit more. Okay, so he charges in and starts literally bashing his sword against the mountain's armor for whatever reason. I mean, it's not what I imagined the Aunt would do. I think he would have a plan in mind, some sort of a plan. We know he's not a dimwit. Maybe it's supposed to show just the unbridled rage and the hate that the Aunt feels towards his brother. Okay, I could accept that narratively, but aesthetically, it simply doesn't work. It looks clumsy. It looks awful. All right, and there's of course this, which is catching the sword in a gauntlet. Of course, swords weren't always sharp all the way down to the crossguard. You could have a gauntlet. A studded gauntlet might be able to stop a blade. A plated gauntlet might be able to stop a blade, even though it was. I don't think there. I mean, catching a sword blade in your hand mid-strike, it's not feasible. It's really hard to do as well. It's just not very probable. So my main gripe with this sequence, with this part of the choreography, is it looks extremely silly. Not just from a realistic point of view, not just from the point of view of a sword instructor. It looks silly aesthetically. It looks clumsy, and it shouldn't be looking clumsy. It should be looking fast and brutal and bloody and hateful and wrathful. Let's continue. That's a good line. I enjoyed this narratively. His helmet falling off, his face being revealed for the first time, Santos' reaction, which is unfazed. He was prepared for that. What he's saying is, "You were a monster all along, Gregor." But for a few blows, the choreography continues, and it's pretty much the same. It's bashing the sword against the armor for whatever reason. I mean, the Aunt knows he's not going to win that way, and I don't know. Did he come here just to die, just to swing the sword a few times and die? Okay, so here we go again. So little happened. There's a lot of cuts. I mean, editing cuts. A clinch. Wait. Let me double check, because I'm not believing my eyes. Oh my fucking god. Okay. Let me triple check. Okay, I gotta say, that's the fucking ugliest Tordispada I've ever seen. So, what the choreographer had in mind here was a historical technique called Tordispada lo Sovrano, coming from Fiora dei Liberi's treatise, 15th century. Let me show two examples of Tordispada done properly. Okay, so what I think happened here is the choreographer saw some video on YouTube, possibly the ones I've showed you, and wanted to incorporate the move because it looks pretty cool, right? The problem is the choreographer had no idea how it should be performed and made a mess out of it. Also, it's cut like 4 times or 5 times over a single fucking move. This is not good cinematography. This is not good choreography. You should not do. You should not have to cut a single move 5 times just so that it works in a movie. So the problem here, I think, is assuming they knew what they were doing, and I don't think they were. I think they didn't have enough time to train Rory or the stuntsman replacing him, but I think that's Rory McCann instead of a stuntsman. And they simply had to reshoot the fight many times just to make it work. So yeah, seeing how ineptly choreographed the rest of the fight is, I don't think the choreographer knew what he was doing, but yeah, that turtle spada was really ugly, but I think it might be a good sign, a sign that, you know, the body of historical techniques, of realistic techniques, is getting noticed by Hollywood in some way. So things might improve over time, baby steps, baby steps. Yeah, I appreciate what they were trying to do here. It just didn't pan out. It didn't pan out at all. I mean, if you want to incorporate cool historical techniques, get someone competent on set. Because what happened here was like, you know, your average office Joe trying to be John Wick. Okay, let's continue. Oh my god, of course. So yeah, the sword's point pierces plate armor because it's fucking tinfoil in Westeros. We all know plate armor isn't worth shit in Westeros. Yeah. So narratively, of course, it serves towards showing that the Mountain is super tough, and to suggest that he's invulnerable. The Aunt's eyes are screaming like die, but he's not dying. Yeah, he's not dead. He still has enough strength to just backslap the Aunt 5 meters away. Okay, so the thing is the shots between the fight sequences, they're really well done. I mean, they show the tension, the struggle. They do everything right just to build up the aesthetics and the tension of the scene. But why ruin that? But why ruin that excellent cinematography with such subpar fights? I mean, someone got paid for choreographing this, and they shouldn't have been paid. I mean, let's go. Yeah, this was all right. He pulls out the sword. It shows that he's super tough. Undead, maybe. Okay, so that's the throw. Okay, so the Aunt, a seasoned fighter, doesn't know what to do with a front choke. That's all right. Let's continue. Okay, a dagger. Good. Okay, so that makes sense because, pain in the arm might cause the muscles to release. I mean, if the Mountain was a living creature, not a super tough monster. But yeah, this makes sense. I like this. Okay. The liver, because it's super painful. Nothing works. Okay. Oh my god, the Oberon move. Okay, so this was really well done. Narratively and cinematographically, this was really well done. You had a visual parallel to Oberon's fight. This was great. Is the hound blind? And how is the mountain still alive? Of course he's undead. Oh, he's still got eyes. So what was bleeding? The music building up. And so it ends in fire. I loved the ending. It was great dramatically, very emotional, very fitting. I think it was a satisfying end to the character's arc. Yes, really, and this was some really great acting from Rory McCann. Super convincing. Okay, so let's sum it up. Cinematographically, the scene was great. It was a great... I think it was one of the best scenes of the season. It had all the right emotions, all the right filmmaking. The film part of it was really, really great. I'd rated it like 9 out of 10, 8 plus out of 10, let's say. But the sword fighting was a mess. I think it would be better off, the whole scene would be better off if they just skipped sword fighting at all and went straight to, I don't know, grappling or just straight choking, choking and eye gouging. The sword fighting here was not only unnecessary, it was awful. It served only towards, ruining the experience for me. Of course, even though it was so abysmal, it didn't manage to ruin the experience as much as, the Battle for Winterfell. But what I'm thinking right now is there was like 3 seasons ago, there was this the Hound versus Brienne fight, which was a lot better. It was much more brutal than this also. It felt gritty, it felt more realistic, it felt more in your face. So clearly there used to be someone capable of choreographing stuff like that. And did they fire that person, or perhaps did that person have a bad day filming this? But this wasn't a good choreography. I can't emphasize this enough. Choreographically, this was a mess. Of course, let's keep in mind that this choreography, I think it was all performed by the actor, not any stuntsman, and the actor has to be trained to perform well. So maybe, just maybe, they didn't have enough time to train Rory McCann properly. He's clearly a capable actor. He's done a great job filming the scene dramatically, but I think his fight performance might have been subpar, which is okay because he's an actor, not a stuntsman. But they should have taken enough time to train him for the scene. All in all, the choreography, the sword fight in the CLEGANEBOWL, it looks extremely rushed, as if, let's say, they didn't have time to nail it properly. And I empathize. I don't mean to bash you guys at the Game of Thrones coordination unit. It's just fight coordination unit. It's just, you should have done it better. You could do it better. You've shown before that you were capable of doing it better. Okay, so I guess that was that for the CLEGANEBOWL. Let me know what other movie fights from Game of Thrones or from other shows you'd like me to react to, and I'll do that. Of course, please subscribe to my channel and feel free to browse through all of its content, all the educational and tutorial videos I have up. If you want to learn how to swing a sword, I've got you, bro or sis. And as always, thank you for watching and see you next time. Keep slaying.